Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. For today's video, I will be talking about reflections on May 13. How do we rebuild our future from a tragic past? May 13 have come and gone, and I think at the national level it has not been commemorated. However, there is a group of young people called Pesawa, of which they organize events to commemorate this tragic incident, and also to organize prayers and talks about this historic time of our country. Recently, I was invited to make a short speech at one of the two cemetery sites, the one in Sungai Buloh. And for today, I would like to summarize the things that I have spoken about. Now, in the speech, I asked three questions. What do we learn from the history of May 13? How do we use May 13 to rebuild our country? And how do we memorialize it so that the young generations do not forget this tragic event that can become a beacon of hope rather than despair to our country? Now, for the first question, what do we learn from May 13? Now, some people feel that in history, what we should do is to blame one race or another race about who started it and how terrible the product of this event to many lives. Then there are also some of those who like to use May 13 as a threat to other people. There was once a politician, I remember, a Malay politician from Gagasan 3, who said, "Saya rindu Mei 13. Saya rindu sangat-sangat Mei 13." And he had the audacity to mention mengasahkan parang, or sharpening the knives. Luckily, the police put a stop to him, and we have never heard from him since. I would like to record my thanks to the police. I don't know what was said, but apparently this person has not uttered such monstrous statement again. Then there was also an incident during the height of the Jawi controversy, of which the Ministry of Education proposed Jawi to be in the Bahasa Malaysia curriculum, and Dong Jiang Zong, which is the Chinese education group, took the matter in a very sensitive manner. But there was a group of students called GAMIS, or Gabungan Mahasiswa Islam, I remember, who used May 13 as a kind of threat if Dong Jiang Zong did not back down from their demand of not agreeing to the curriculum. Again, the police stepped into the situation, and I'm very thankful that they did, for the matter had been mitigated professionally. So here it looks as if we were to visit the site and look at the jungles surrounding the site, it seems as if one part of our nation do not want to remember May 13. And that's why the site has never been memorialized or commemorated. It is now gazetted as a Chinese cemetery, even though there are, I was told, Malays and other races being buried within the same cemetery. Now, normally, culturally, the Malays would have a problem with that. But at that time of havoc, of chaos, something that none of us can imagine because we were not there to see this event. And people were buried, I was told, and this has been the result, a very tragic situation indeed. So instead of learning from history to blame others, for me the blame should be on all of us, on all races, on all people and politicians. There is no use for us to blame one race or one politician or two politicians or one group or one hooligan. History is a mystery. It's in the past, and there is no way for us to actually pinpoint what actually began the May 13th, because such things like what we are listening now, with people, politicians talking about racial issues, religious issues, and then now social media influencers also talking about them and riling people up, and the effect from it from other races and other religious groups like the Hindu quail incident, as well as the stalking Allah incident has caused this kind of back and forth that we can see would easily turn into something as devastating as the May 13th. We have the 3 Molotov cocktails that almost burnt down 3 KK Mart. We have seen actually one MP house who was a Chinese, when he mentioned something about Islam, and his house and cars, his cars were actually burnt and his house partially burnt. Luckily, there is no loss of life. And so we can see history in the making. And and after reading the book by Lee Kuan Yew, The Singapore Story, I could sense that the same thing can repeat itself. And so it is better that we determine that everyone was at fault. And in this manner, we can then be remorseful about what we as a nation had allowed to happen. If we go on blaming someone or some group or some race, there will never be closure, and there will always be a wound which is more than a scar, and it will fester until it destroys us all. And so this is what I mean, that in learning from history, we need to create a narrative that everyone was at fault, and that all of those who died should be considered as heroes because they died needlessly for the mistakes of the nation. So finding fault is not a prerogative. It is important to move forward, but not to move in a sense of weaponizing the May 13 like what Gagasan Tiga has done and what Gamis had done. That's not the way. Certainly, we should not allow that. Now, the second question is that how then do we rebuild this country from May 13? We see that many of our young people have already forgotten what May 13 stood for or stand for. We should educate the young people about how all of us need each other in order to prosper in this country. Whether we should prosper economically, make ourselves and our children wealthy, well taken care of, or even spiritually. Whether you are Muslim, Christian, Hindus, we need each other. And some people may complain and say that, well, as a Muslim or as a Christian, we do not need other people, only our own, those who with our faith. I disagree, because I understand that if you are Muslim, Christian, Hindus, and if you help anyone, any child, then you will be favored by God or by karma. This is what I think should be the narrative. And if we doubt that spiritual lesson, why don't we look at ourselves, our blood in our veins, from a Chinese to an Indian, from an Indian to a Malay? We have the same blood. When I was in the hospital suffering from a bleeding stomach, there were 4 packets of blood that was put in me because of this bleeding. And I jokingly asked the doctor, are these blood from Indians or Chinese or Malays? And he said, well, we don't know. It just comes to us as whether it is type A or type O or B negative or whatever that blood has been classified. Always in my speech on harmony or nation building, I always say that we should have classified ourselves not as Malays or Chinese or Indians, not as Muslims, as Christians, as Hindus, but as Bangsa A or Bangsa O or Bangsa B negative and things like that. Because then and only then can we realize our humanity. So we should also educate ourselves in thinking that if we are to learn, we have to learn from everyone. Are we just to learn from our own race? Are we just to learn from our own people of our own faith? If we go to the universities, all of our teachers, lecturers, professors are different. I have been in the United States for 6 years. I was taught. All of them were non-Muslim. I was in Scotland for 3 years for my PhD. I was taught by my supervisor who passed away just when I was attending the Viva. I attended it alone. But I managed to get a lot of wisdom from the man who doesn't believe in God. But I managed to complete my thesis on the mosque as a community development center supervised by a person who doesn't believe in God, but who has a rational mind, who has an idea about humanity that is larger than our very narrow construct of religion. So this is what we need to use to rebuild the country. Now for the third question, how then do we memorialize the May 13th? Well, firstly, I would like to ask the government, this government or other governments in the future, to declare May 13th as a public holiday. Now, if the government is reluctant to do so, all of us Malaysians can actually declare it ourselves. We can put it and say, I want to have a holiday today, and under this, the section that says, give reasons for request of holiday, to memorialize or to remember May 13th. I would also like to ask all Malaysians and also the government, if they are willing, to make the week leading to May 13th to be a day of remembrance with forums and talks that elucidate the lessons or the harsh lessons and the things that we need to correct ourselves. In all our schools, in all our universities, and also in all our houses of worship. Now, if the government is not willing to do that, again, all of us can step up and do it. We have private schools, international schools. We have vernacular schools, some of which are independent. We have private universities that is not under the Kementerian. So if it is too sensitive politically for the government of the day, then we Malaysians can just do it ourselves. It's a matter of whether we want to or not. I always believe that change must start with us, always us, not with politicians, not with political parties. We've seen how that has happened. It's not about being disheartened. It's simply the pragmatism of things that hinders progress. And I don't believe in being blocked by certain tradition. I think we can do it ourselves, and we do it ourselves. We stop waiting for someone else and stop blaming other people. Let's just up and do it ourselves. Now, the other thing is that as an architect, I've always said and have written and said that we need to have a building around the two sides of May 13 cemeteries. Now, what is the purpose of the building? Number one, it is to have a wall that contains the names of those who had fallen, and I don't use the word died, I use the word fallen as how we would describe our warriors, our soldiers who have died for the country. I don't know of any other way of honoring them, because suddenly they were just walking one day and then suddenly somebody just stabbing them for no reason. And this is the tragedy, as a parent losing children, as children losing their parents, as friends losing other friends. I mean, that's not so bad. I mean, as a parent losing children, that is unthinkable. On something that you were never part of, actually. And so, this is how we honor them. And the other purpose of the building is that I would like to have all the Wakil Rakyat, whether they are Wakil Rakyat Negeri, which is the ADUN, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri, or they are members of parliament, to come and take the oath of office, not just with the Sultan or with the Agong, but also in front of the cemeteries. So in groups they would come. Let's say one day you'll have UMNO MPs coming in, another day DAP ADUNs coming in, to swear that such thing should never ever again occur, and to swear that they should never weaponize such things like the history of May 13 for their own narrow political purposes. And so in this manner, the death of all the people, our children, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, will have meaning. The meaning that it is a beacon to change this country, rather than a dark situation, a dark place like the forest that is slowly engulfing these cemeteries. Let's make it a brighter place for our future, with the sacrifice of our children and our loved one in that incident. Thank you very much. Hi everybody. If you would like to own my book and have my signature as well as a personal note from me, please follow the instruction. Thank you.